The metallic taste of fear coated Liridian's tongue as she stepped through the molecular reconstructor. Her violet skin shimmered, then faded to a pale human tone. The sensation of her 4 secondary breathing gills sealing shut made her gasp through her newly formed human nose. Pain radiated through her body as bones shifted, organs rearranged, and the familiar weight of her cranial crest disappeared. "Remember your mission, Observer Liridian." Commander Vex's voice echoed in her neural implant. "The hegemony requires accurate intelligence on human social structures before we proceed with the assimilation protocol." The Eltharian hegemony had studied humans from afar for decades. The primitive species had proven surprisingly resilient, developing technologies at an alarming rate despite their biological inefficiencies. Most troubling to the Hegemony Council was the human capacity for warfare, coupled with their inexplicable ability to form deep emotional bonds with even non-genetic relatives. Their social cohesion defies evolutionary logic, her briefing had emphasized. Humans will sacrifice themselves for strangers. We must understand this weakness before exploitation. As the reconstruction completed, Liridian examined her new form with scientific detachment. 5 digits per limb, bilateral symmetry, mammalian reproductive structures. Disgusting but functional. Her cover identity was impeccable. Rental apartment secured in a mid-tier human settlement called Portland, employment credentials as a research assistant, and a backstory as an immigrant from a remote European region explaining any cultural missteps. 3 standard cycles. That was all the time she had to gather the required intelligence before molecular degradation would force her return. "Transport complete," the technician announced. "Subject stabilized." Liridian found herself in a small wooded area near human habitation. Her first breath of unfiltered earth air burned her lungs, oxygen levels higher than simulation chambers had prepared her for. Rain fell gently around her, each drop sending sensory data through her unfamiliar nervous system. "Proceed to extraction. Point Delta," Commander Vex ordered. "Your human transportation awaits." The car operated exactly as training simulations had shown. Liridian's embedded knowledge allowed her to navigate to her new dwelling without incident. The apartment was small but sufficient: a sleeping chamber, waste elimination facility, and food preparation area. Perfect for a solitary observation mission. By her 3rd day on Earth, Liridian had established her routine at the Research Institute. Humans were disarmingly casual, touching each other's appendages in greeting, sharing nutrition in ritualistic lunch breaks, and discussing reproductive activities openly. Most puzzling was their insistence on asking about her emotional state, without expecting accurate data. "How's it going, Lydia?" asked the male called Orion Desai, a researcher specializing in theoretical physics. His melanin-rich skin and symmetrical facial features made him statistically attractive by human standards. "Getting settled in okay?" "Functioning within acceptable parameters," she replied, then corrected herself. "I mean, yes, settling in fine." Orion laughed, that curious vocalization humans produce during moments of social bonding. "You're funny. A bunch of us are grabbing drinks after work. You should come." "Drinks? You wish me to consume liquids in your presence?" His eyes, deep brown with flecks of amber, crinkled at the corners. "It's a social thing. Helps new people make friends." Friends. The concept had been in her briefing. Humans formed non-reproductive bonds that somehow strengthened their collective functioning. Perhaps this ritual would provide valuable observational data. "Yes," she replied. "I will consume drinks with you." As Orion walked away, Liridian felt an unfamiliar sensation in her abdominal region. A flutter, a warmth. Her implant immediately registered elevated cardiovascular activity. Diagnostic report: anomalous hormonal fluctuation detected. Possible environmental contamination. But Liridian knew better. The humans were affecting her in ways the hegemony hadn't predicted, and that made them infinitely more dangerous than previously believed. Music pulsed through the darkened establishment as Liridian observed humans engaged in their mating rituals. The bar was a fascinating anthropological study. Humans consumed neurotoxins deliberately to lower inhibitions, then engaged in elaborate displays of physical prowess or verbal acuity to attract potential partners. Not much of a drinker? Orion slid onto the stool beside her, his body radiating heat that her sensitive skin detected even from centimeters away. Lyridian stared at her untouched beer. The carbonated fermentation smelled revolting to her enhanced olfactory receptors. I prefer to maintain optimal neural function. Smart woman, he signaled the server. Sparkling water for the lady, please. The ease with which he accommodated her preference without demanding explanation was unexpected. On Ulthar, deviation from social norms required extensive justification. Protocols. Over the following weeks, Lyridian's data collection proceeded efficiently. She documented human hierarchical structures, surprisingly fluid, resource allocation systems, inefficient but adaptable, and defense capabilities, primitive but creative. Yet her most valuable observations came from interactions with Orion. He invited her to additional social gatherings, a movie night where humans collectively watched fictional scenarios as some form of empathy training, a hike up a mountain that seemed to serve no purpose beyond experiencing discomfort for visual stimulation, a farmer's market where humans inefficiently exchanged currency for organic matter they could easily synthesize. Most perplexing was how these activities affected her artificial human form. Proximity to Orion caused autonomic responses her training hadn't covered. Elevated pulse, pupil dilation, increased dermal sensitivity. Warning, her implant chirped during their 7th non-work interaction. Emotional contamination detected. Recommend cognitive purge protocol. Lyridian ignored the warning. The hegemony needed this intelligence. How humans formed connections that transcended logical self-interest. You know what I like about you, Lydia? Orion said as they watched the sunset from Forest Park, the city sprawling below them. You see the world differently. You notice things others miss. If only he knew how different her perspective truly was. Your species. She caught herself. Your culture values conformity. I'm merely observant. My culture? Which part? He laughed. My mom's Indian, dad's half black, half Dominican. I'm a walking cultural fusion. This genetic diversity fascinated her. On Ulthar, genetic variation was carefully controlled through selective breeding programs. Tell me about your family, she said, collecting more data. Mom's a surgeon, dad teaches literature. They met protesting a nuclear power plant in the 90s. Definitely didn't want me becoming a physicist working with experimental energy systems. He grinned. What about yours? Lyridian had memorized her cover story, but suddenly the deception felt uncomfortable. I was selected for a special program from birth. My parents surrendered me to the collective. It wasn't entirely false. Ultharian reproduction involved genetic selection and communal rearing. Orion's face softened. That sounds lonely. Efficiency doesn't require emotional attachment. His fingers brushed hers, an electrical sensation that made her gasp. I disagree. Connection makes us stronger, not weaker. That night her dreams were contaminated with impossible scenarios. Remaining on Earth, continuing this existence, being with Orion beyond her mission parameters. The implant administered corrective neurochemicals 3 times before morning. Mission update required, Commander Vex demanded the next day. Intelligence lacks emotional component analysis. Processing complex data, she replied. Humans form bonds through shared experiences of beauty and vulnerability. They call it friendship, sometimes love. Irrelevant. Focus on military capabilities and hierarchical weaknesses. But as Lyridian ended the communication, she realized that despite the hegemony's technological superiority, they fundamentally misunderstood humanity's greatest strength. The human capacity for connection wasn't weakness. It was power beyond anything her species had imagined, and she was beginning to feel it herself. You're destroying everything we've worked for. Commander Vex's voice sliced through Lyridian's consciousness at 300 hours, jolting her from sleep. Your biochemical readings suggest emotional compromise. Lyridian sat up in her bed, the sheets tangled around her unfamiliar human legs. 2 months into her mission, her cover identity was no longer feeling like a disguise. She enjoyed the sensation of rain on her skin, the taste of chocolate, the sound of Orion's laughter. "I'm gathering crucial intelligence on human bonding behaviors," she countered. "The Council specifically requested this data. You've exceeded mission parameters. Your molecular structure shows signs of permanent adaptation to Earth's biosphere." The implication was clear. She was becoming too human. "I require additional time," she insisted. "Humans are more complex than our models indicated." After a tense silence, Vex responded, "1 additional cycle granted, but be warned, extraction may become complicated if contamination continues." The transmission ended, leaving Liridian alone with uncomfortable thoughts. The hegemony's plan for Earth was not the benevolent cultural exchange described in her initial briefing. Recent transmissions had revealed the truth. Humans were to be subjugated, their genetic material harvested for Ultharian evolution experiments, their planet terraformed for colonization. Months ago, this would have seemed logical. Now, having experienced human kindness, creativity, and connection, the plan felt barbaric. At the laboratory the next day, Orion approached her workstation with unusual intensity. "Lydia, I need to show you something." He led her to his private research area, a privilege granted for his groundbreaking work on quantum energy fields. On his monitor was a simulation of particle behavior that looked eerily similar to Ultharian molecular transportation technology. "I've been tracking unusual energy signatures around Portland," he explained. "Identical to these quantum fluctuations. It's like something or someone is traveling through folded spacetime." Liridian's heart raced. Had the hegemony sent other observers? Or worse, was this the advanced team for invasion? "Fascinating theory," she managed, keeping her voice steady. "But perhaps it's instrumental error. That's what I thought until I found this." He pulled up a satellite image showing a heat signature in the forest, exactly where she had materialized months ago. Whatever came through left trace radiation identical to theoretical wormhole particles. She had underestimated human scientific advancement. They were closer to discovering interstellar travel than the hegemony realized. "Why show me this?" she asked carefully. Orion's eyes held hers. "Because I trust you, and because I care about you." The words activated something primal within her artificially created form. A longing for connection her species had engineered out generations ago. That night, when Orion kissed her beneath a sky filled with stars her people had mapped millennia, Ego Liridian made her choice. Their bodies came together with both biological urgency and tender exploration. She knew the risks. Interspecies reproduction should be impossible given her artificial construction. Yet as Orion held her afterward, whispering words of affection against her skin, the implant in her brainstem delivered a shocking alert. Cellular anomaly detected. Human DNA integration in progress. She was carrying his child, a genetic impossibility that defied Ultharian science. The hegemony had miscalculated. Humans weren't simply adaptable. They could fundamentally change those they encountered. And now, growing within her was proof of humanity's most remarkable quality, the ability to create something new from difference, to transform the alien into family. Liridian placed a protective hand over her abdomen, making a silent vow. This child, this miracle, would never become a specimen in an Ultharian laboratory. She would protect both the child and its father's world no matter the cost. "Your biochemistry has been compromised beyond acceptable parameters." The hegemony extraction team leader, Marvox, stood in Liridian's apartment, his human disguise, not quite concealing the cold Ultharian calculation in his eyes. "You will return immediately for cellular purification." 6 weeks had passed since her night with Orion. The life growing inside her, a genetic hybrid that shouldn't exist, was developing rapidly, altering her physiology in ways that increasingly troubled her implant's monitoring systems. "The mission is incomplete," Liridian argued. "Human societal structures are more nuanced than anticipated." Marvox's expression remained impassive. The Council has reviewed your transmissions. Your data is corrupted by emotional contamination. We've deployed observation drones to gather remaining intelligence. Drones? Alarm coursed through her. Humans have detection technology. Irrelevant. The assimilation timeline has been accelerated. Marvox removed a small device from his pocket. The invasion fleet arrives in 3 lunar cycles. The revelation struck Liridian like physical pain. 3 months until humanity faced extinction. 3 months until Orion and billions like him would be processed for genetic harvesting. Humans deserve diplomatic contact, she protested. They're capable of interstellar negotiation. Marvox's laugh held no humor. You've gone native, Observer Liridian. The human reproductive material you're carrying has compromised your judgment. Her hand instinctively moved to protect her abdomen. She had told no one about the pregnancy, not even Orion. How did you? Your implant transmits all biological data. Marvox stepped closer. The hybrid embryo is of significant scientific interest. You will be treated well in the research facility. Liridian understood with sickening clarity. She wasn't being recalled for decontamination. She was being recalled for dissection. Both her and her unborn child. I need time to gather my research. Materials, she stalled. You have until sundown. An extraction team will collect you. Marvox's human disguise rippled slightly as he moved toward the door. Do not attempt evasion. It would be unfortunate if we had to terminate the experiment. Prematurely, the moment he left, Liridian activated her emergency protocol, removing the neural implant with a kitchen knife and cauterizing the wound. The pain was excruciating, but necessary. She had severed her connection to the hegemony. Blood still drying. On her neck, she packed essentials and fled to the one person who might believe her impossible truth. Orion's apartment door opened to reveal his concerned face. Lydia, you're bleeding. What happened? I need to tell you something, she said, her voice shaking. I'm not who you think I am. Over the next hour, she revealed everything. Her true origin, her mission, the coming invasion. As proof, she deliberately allowed her disguise to slip, revealing glimpses of violet skin beneath her human facade. Instead of the fear or disgust she expected, Orion's expression showed fascination and determination. We need to warn people, he said finally. They won't believe you. The hegemony has infiltrated key government positions. Then we need to stop the invasion ourselves. Orion moved to his research computer. My quantum field work, it could theoretically disrupt their molecular transport technology. Hope flickered within her. You would help me, even knowing what I am? Orion took her hands in his. I know exactly who you are, Liridian. You're the woman I love. And apparently, his eyes dropped to her abdomen, the mother of my child. She hadn't told him that part yet. How did you? You've been eating pickles, dipped in hot sauce for breakfast. His smile was gentle. Plus you talk in your sleep, in a language definitely not from Earth. As they embraced, Liridian realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just their capacity for connection. It was their unshakable hope when facing impossible odds. The hegemony has never encountered resistance like you, she whispered. They're about to learn why that's a mistake, Orion replied, already formulating a plan to protect his family and his world. The abandoned military bunker 40 miles outside Portland hummed with activity. 3 weeks after Liridian's revelation, Orion had assembled an unlikely resistance. Brilliant scientists who'd witnessed unexplainable phenomena, veterans who'd encountered strange technology in remote conflicts, conspiracy theorists whose paranoia had accidentally brushed against truth. The energy signature is definitely extraterrestrial, Dr. Esmeralda Voss concluded, studying the data from Orion's quantum sensors. The astrophysicist had been tracking anomalous signals for years before Orion cautiously approached her. These patterns match what I recorded during the Perseid meteor shower last August. Those weren't meteors, Liridian confirmed. They were hegemony scout drones. Around the planning table, 24 humans absorbed this information with remarkable composure. Humanity's adaptability continued to surprise her. When presented with evidence, these scientists and military strategists had accepted the unbelievable with determined pragmatism. "We've identified 3 primary transport nodes," Colonel Kaito Nishimura marked locations on a digital map. The former Special Forces commander had encountered a crashed Ultharian drone in Afghanistan. Based on Liridian's intelligence, these will be the main arrival points for their invasion force. Liridian's pregnancy was advancing more rapidly than human gestation, another sign of the child's hybrid nature. At 4 months, she appeared 7 months pregnant, her body struggling to accommodate the developing life that combined 2 evolutionary paths separated by millions of light years. "We've modified the quantum disruptor based on your specifications," Orion told her. Dark circles under his eyes, evidence of sleepless nights. His theoretical research had been repurposed into a defensive weapon, one that could potentially destabilize the molecular cohesion of incoming Ultharian forces. "It won't stop them permanently," Liridian cautioned. "The hegemony has resources beyond your comprehension." "We don't need to win the war today," Colonel Nishimura replied. "We just need to bloody their nose enough to force negotiation." As the meeting concluded, Liridian felt a sudden sharp pain. Collapsing against the wall, she gasped as fluid soaked her clothing. "The baby," she whispered, as Orion rushed to her side. "It's coming." Dr. Ilyana Kostova, their medical expert, helped Liridian to the bunker's infirmary. "The hybrid physiology is accelerating everything. We need to deliver now." As contractions tore through her, Liridian clutched Orion's hand. "If something happens to me, promise you'll protect our child." "Nothing's happening to you," he insisted, but his voice trembled. The birth was mercifully quick by human standards, but agonizing as Liridian's transformed body struggled with a process it wasn't designed for. When the piercing cry of their daughter filled the room, both parents wept. The infant had Orion's rich brown skin and dark hair, but Liridian's iridescent violet eyes that shifted color in different light. 10 perfect fingers, 10 perfect toes. Outwardly human but carrying genetic innovations that would never have evolved naturally on either world. "She's beautiful," Orion whispered, cradling their daughter. "What should we name her?" Before Liridian could answer, alarms blared throughout the bunker. Colonel Nishimura's voice came over the intercom. "They're here. Transport signatures at all 3 nodes." Orion handed the newborn back to Liridian, conflict etching his features. "I have to. Activate the disruptors. Go," she urged. "Protect her future." As he rushed from the room, Liridian held her daughter close, this impossible child who represented everything the hegemony feared about humanity. Unpredictability, adaptation, evolution, beyond control. Through their bond, Liridian sensed something extraordinary. The baby's consciousness reaching out, touching her mind with capabilities neither species possessed alone. Suddenly she understood why the hegemony feared human integration. This child wasn't merely a hybrid. She was the next step in evolution for both species. "Nova," Liridian whispered, naming the brilliant new star of their joined worlds. "Your name is Nova." The bunker shook with distant explosions. The battle for Earth had begun, with her daughter, humanity's newest defender, only minutes old. The sky burned crimson as hegemony transport ships materialized above Portland. Quantum disruptors fired from 3 strategic locations, creating rippling distortions that caught the first wave of invaders mid-transport. Hundreds of Ultharian soldiers rematerialized with fatal molecular instabilities, their forms collapsing into primordial cellular soup. "Disruption successful at Node Alpha," Colonel Nishimura reported. "But they're adapting already." In the bunker's command center, Liridian cradled Nova against her chest while monitoring hegemony communication frequencies. Only 3 days old, Nova's developmental acceleration continued, her eyes already focused with unsettling awareness, her tiny hand gripping her mother's finger with surprising strength. "Second transport wave incoming," Dr. Voss warned. "Energy signatures are modulating to bypass our disruptors." Orion worked frantically at his console, recalibrating their defenses. "We need more time." Liridian studied the tactical display with growing despair. The hegemony's adaptation was occurring faster than anticipated. Humanity's resistance, while impressive, wouldn't withstand the full invasion force. There's another option, she said quietly, placing Nova in a makeshift bassinet. The hegemony operates through a centralized command structure. If their leadership received direct evidence that humans aren't suitable for assimilation— What are you suggesting? Orion asked, looking up from his work. A diplomatic mission. I can transport to the command ship and present our case directly to the Sovereign Council. Absolutely not, Orion protested. They'll dissect you and Nova the moment you arrive. Not if I bring proof of humanity's value. Liridian's voice strengthened, with conviction. Our daughter is that proof, evidence that our species can achieve more together than apart. Colonel Nishimura frowned. You're proposing to use your child as a bargaining chip? I'm proposing to show them the future. Liridian gazed down at Nova, whose eyes shifted from violet to amber as she observed the adults around her. A future where cooperation replaces conquest. Before further objections could be raised, Nova's tiny hand reached upward, and every electronic device in the room surged with power. Screens flickered with complex equations far beyond current human mathematics, diagrams of technology neither species had developed. She's communicating, Dr. Voss whispered, watching the symbols cascade across monitors. Orion's face paled. Is she doing this telepathically? No, Liridian realized with astonishment. She's manipulating quantum fields directly, something neither humans nor Eltharians can do. The implications were staggering. Nova wasn't merely a hybrid. She represented an evolutionary leap that neither parent species could achieve alone. Her existence challenged the hegemony's fundamental belief in their evolutionary superiority. This changes everything, Liridian said. But I still need to go. The Sovereign will only accept direct evidence after agonizing deliberation. A plan formed. Liridian would transport to the command ship, using Orion's modified technology to bring Nova's genetic profile and preliminary cognitive scans, but not their daughter herself. It was a desperate gambit, but their only hope to halt the invasion before more lives were lost on both sides. The moment of parting was heartbreaking. Liridian held Nova one last time, memorizing her scent, the weight of her in her arms. I'll come back to you, she promised. Orion embraced them both. We'll be waiting. The transport sequence initiated. Molecular deconstruction was excruciating, her partially human body resistant to the process. But seconds later, Liridian materialized. On the hegemony command ship's bridge, Sovereign Zix, supreme leader of the Eltharian hegemony, rose from his command throne. In his natural form, towering, iridescent, multi-limbed, he embodied the cold calculation of their species. Observer Liridian, he acknowledged, your contamination is even more extensive than reported. Sovereign, I bring critical intelligence about human integration potential. She transmitted Nova's genetic profile to the main view screen. This is my offspring, a human Eltharian hybrid. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the bridge crew. Genetic manipulation, the Sovereign dismissed. Natural conception, Liridian countered. And the child possesses capabilities beyond either species. She can manipulate quantum fields directly without technology. She transmitted the recorded data from Nova's demonstration. The Sovereign studied it, mandibles clicking in their species' expression of intense interest. If verified, this suggests humans have greater evolutionary potential than our models predicted, he admitted. Not just potential. Liridian pressed her advantage. Partnership, voluntary genetic exchange through natural reproduction, offers advantages that forced assimilation cannot achieve. My daughter is proof. For 3 tense hours, Liridian presented her case to increasingly intrigued Eltharian scientists. The destruction below paused as the Sovereign considered this unexpected development. Finally, he rendered judgment. The invasion is suspended pending further investigation. You will bring this hybrid child for examination. I will bring her only if you recognize Earth's sovereignty and establish diplomatic relations, Liridian countered boldly. No examinations without human oversight and consent. The sovereign's multifaceted eyes narrowed. You negotiate as a human would, I negotiate as a mother, she corrected. For both my worlds, when Liridian rematerialized in the bunker hours later, she found Orion cradling Nova, singing softly to their daughter. The relief on his face when he saw her was more beautiful than any sunrise. They've agreed to diplomatic contact, she announced to the astonished resistance. The hegemony has recognized Earth as a sovereign world with evolutionary significance. Celebration erupted around them, but Orion simply pulled her close, their daughter nestled between them. What changed their minds? He asked. Liridian smiled, down at Nova, whose eyes now shimmered with colors no single species could perceive. They discovered what I already knew, that humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or warfare, but your capacity to connect, to transform, to love across boundaries. Nova reached up, tiny fingers grasping both her parents' hands, joining them together. The hegemony came looking for subjects, Liridian whispered. Instead, they found equals, and perhaps teachers outside. The crimson sky cleared as Ultharian ships retreated to orbital positions. The invasion had become a first contact, humanity's introduction to the galactic community not as conquests, but as partner, and in a bunker beneath the Oregon forest. A family that should never have existed held the future of two worlds in their intertwined hands, a future brighter and more wondrous than either species could have imagined. Alan Nova, daughter of stars and soil, opened her remarkable eyes to a universe of possibilities her parents had created through the most revolutionary act in the cosmos. Love that transcended the boundaries of worlds,